Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. And in this video, we're gonna talk about this particular post that caught my eye when I was browsing this subreddit. So this is a guy who deleted 37k records from a non-prod DB, which is a pretty junior developer move. If you're a real senior developer, you would probably delete it from production. So still not senior enough. So this guy actually deleted 37,000 records while he was testing a script in a non-prod environment. And this got me thinking that there will be people who might find themselves in this kind of situation, and what is their plan of action when something like this happens, and what can be done to kind of prevent this from happening in the first place, right? So this user was trying to insert a few records and then delete those records which are in this particular range, and I think they kind of missed the where statement and they deleted like all the records in the table, right? All the 37k records. And there were around 4 to 5 people who were working on that same database. They were connected from maybe their local instance to this particular server, and they happened to do that at 4 a.m. in the morning, which is probably not the best time to code. And fortunately for them, there were some logs generated for the records that they had inserted in the database. So they were able to extract those out and then basically put them back in, and everything was fine. So in this video, we're going to take a look at what would be your next steps if you find yourself in this kind of scenario, and then also what would be the best way to prevent this kind of scenario, right? Again, preventing is not just a single developer effort. It's like a team and then a process that has to be set in place so that this doesn't happen. Let's get started. So here I have a MariaDB instance, which is basically running MariaDB 10.6, and I have a database called employees, which has, I think, around 4 to 5 tables, and then I think in total I might have around 200, 300k records, right? So if I do show tables, I have around what, 9 rows, right? So 9 tables. And let's just say you're working on this employees table and you wrote a script that would do something on the employees table, right? Maybe insert a few records, test a few conditions, and then delete, right? A cleanup action of sorts. You know, as life is, things don't go as planned, and maybe you deleted the whole table rather than just deleting a few records, right? So how would you kind of fix that? So one way of doing it is to enable bin log. So whatever changes you do to the database, right? So any insert, updates, or deletes, these changes get logged in binary format in a bin log, and you have to enable bin log. So to check if you have enabled bin log, you can run show variables like log underscore bin. Let me run this, and it just says on. So in case if it says off, you would have to do one thing. To enable bin logging, you would have to edit the configuration file. So for MariaDB, it is in cat etc. I think it is con. It's Maria MySQL, and then MariaDB conf. Oh no, I think it is just this file, I guess, my.cnf. Yeah. So here, as you can see, this is the section that I've added in the my.cnf file, and this will enable bin log, right? So if you have replication enabled, then you would give it a server ID. You have log bin. So this is the name, the prefix with which your log files will be created. For me, it is MySQL bin -bin. It can be anything that you want. There is a bin log format, which is row. There is expire logs days. So after 7 days, the logs will expire. And what would be the maximum bin log size, right? So it is 100 MB. So I have this configuration set. And once I have this, if I again go in here and then if you do a log bin, you should see log bin as on. Now, how is this helpful, right? So now let us say that I insert a few records, right? So I have added one row, right? Let me add another row with the same data, and maybe I'll just change the ID to 90. Yeah. Now let's just say I by mistake deleted these insertions, right? So if I say delete, cool. So here we inserted two records, and now I ran this query which deleted those two records. So kind of simulating that and simulating that scenario. So now to check what was the data inserted, remember that I've enabled bin logging. So if I go inside my container, and then if I actually do this, run this. So let me also take a look at what is the time right now. Okay, this is actually not my system time. I think it picks up from UTC time, I guess. So let me just change it to 27. I just inserted now, so let's just make me 17 10 to 17 13. So this MySQL bin log is a tool which allows you to read the binary logs. So remember that the values are actually saved in binary format. So if you open this file, it's all gibberish. You won't be able to understand. So you need this tool called MySQL bin log, and to that you pass in two options: start date time and stop date time, which is basically the cutoff times or the interval for which you need the logs. So I inserted the logs maybe like a couple of minutes back. That's why I'm looking for logs between 5:10 to 5:13, and then I'm looking at in this file var lib mysql bin.005, and then let me just not grep it first. Let me just show you the raw output. So if I do this, it gives like a lot of random crap. And if you actually look at these things, right, so it actually shows me the data that I inserted, right? So it shows me the employee ID, the all the data that I've passed, basically the insert statement, right? With this, you can actually extract the data out, run a script, run a script to process the output of this particular command, and then maybe extract the data out and do it, which is not ideal at all. I know that. But this is one way of doing it, right? You can also do a grep on it to just get the thing that you want. So you can do an insert into, I think you need to have single quotes around this and then enter, right? Now you just see the two records, right? None of the other crap. So this could be helpful in understanding and recreating the data that you just deleted. So this is through bin logging. So there is another way of kind of restoring data provided by a cloud provider. So if you actually are hosting your database on something like Amazon Relational Database Service, which is Amazon RDS, it gives you automated backups, right? So it gives you like a backup window. So if the database is in a specific region, what is the time block in which the automated backup is created, right? There is also one more way of creating, which is manual backups. So you can go into your RDS settings and then you can just create a snapshot. But one thing to actually remember is that, so let's say you have an instance A, which is your database, and you are running some sort of script on this and you mess this up, but you have a automated backup of called A-, right? Somewhere in AWS, and you have enabled, this is a completely managed RDS instance, or maybe on DigitalOcean somewhere, right? So even DigitalOcean supports automated backups. So you have this automated backup called A-, which is called snapshot in RDS terms. Now, if you want to restore your database to this snapshot, you cannot just tell RDS that, hey, take the snapshot and just paste it in, right? That is not how this works. So what it will do is it will create a completely new instance with whatever state. So this is, let's just say this is A-, right? So essentially it is exactly the same as A before you messed up. The only thing is that the URLs are going to change, right? So if you have an application that is still requesting this, you would have to redeploy that application with this new URL, keeping in mind all the permissions and all that stuff is also in place, right? So it is a bit of a headache. I don't know if there is a better way of doing it. So just to summarize, there are two things that you should do. One is look if the bin log is enabled. I've also showed you how to enable bin logging. Though there are some disadvantages to enable bin log, but I think that the advantages outweigh disadvantages if you don't have automated backups enabled. But suppose you are using AWS or say DigitalOcean, then you can use automated backups, but this is the caveat, right? You cannot use the same database URL. Your database URL is going to update. You have to redeploy your application. Now let's take a look at what you could potentially do to just prevent this issue in the first place, right? So there are two aspects to this. There is a non-technical aspect and there is a technical aspect, right? So let's just first take a look at the technical aspect, and then maybe we can jump into the non-technical aspect later. So there are two things that people suggest in the comment section of that Reddit post. So one is to use like a select before you do a delete, right? So for example, I have these employees, right? So if I do a select count or count star from employees, right? So there are, maybe like 300,000 records, right? So now say your script is deleting some of these records, right? Or you're running a command here that is going to delete these records. So a safer way of doing it is to just do a select of count star from the table name. In our case, this is employees. And then you can add your condition, right? So whatever the where clause would be for your delete query, you can add it. So this will give you like a count, right? So you could verify that, hey, these are the amount of records that my script might have added, and these are the correct amount of records that I'm deleting, right? So this is like a good, quick, easy thing that you could just run and see that, hey, this is good, right? Like a good sanity check before you actually run your delete statement. This is one. The other thing is to actually run it in a transaction. So what do I mean by that? So say I don't want to do this. I just want to delete it, right? I'm YOLOing it. I don't care. So I'll actually do a start transaction, right? Let me start a transaction. Now what I'll do is I'll say delete delete from employees where but suppose I kind of forgot to add the where clause, right, which happened in our case. And now suppose I delete the full table, right? It will probably take some time because there are 300,000 records. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, panic, right? Oh, 300,000 records deleted. I just hit enter because it's 4 a.m. in the morning. I have zero focus and I just deleted these, right? So you could just do like a rollback, and just like that, right? Wait a second, give it some time, and just like that, if I do again a count star, you could still see those records, right? So if I just do a count star without this, you could still see that the number of records are back, right? So even if you deleted those records, they are back. So transactions are like really good alternative to this if you don't prefer this. But yeah, so these two things you would want to do. The other thing is that you could actually clone this table, right? So you could do like a create table employees back, a BAK, like, or I think it's as select star from I think it's select star from employees. Yeah. So now I have two tables, right? So if I do show tables, so there is an employees table, there is an employees back table, and this is also something that I created before this video. So using the same technique, and this will have the same data as employees, right? So even if I do an employee back and then do a count star, so count star and delete this will still have those many records, right? So now you can actually modify your script to run on this backup table so that you are not touching any of the tables that other developers are using, right? This is the third way of doing it. And there could be more ways. So if you know any other way, please let me know in the comments below. But these are the three technical ways to kind of prevent this from happening in the first place. So just to go over them, number one, use a select count star with the same where clause that you would use for your delete statement, and check if the number of rows that the count returns, if it matches your expectation, right? The second thing is to use transaction. So you just use start transaction, and then you can just do a delete and just, YOLO it. Don't think more about that. And if you feel that, hey, you messed up, you could just do a rollback. Else you could do a commit and it will finally be committed to your database, right? And the third thing is, which I feel is the most easiest, though it could get a bit more complicated if your table is large, right? Is that you could just create a temporary table called employees, like something underscore back, and just run this and just clone it, right? And then run your script on that particular table, and then you should be good, right? Now, what are the non-technical ways of probably doing it, right? So the one that I usually try to do is taking a database dump, right? Taking a DB dump. So what you would essentially do is you would connect to a non-prod database. You would use pgdump if it is a Postgres server, or the corresponding SQL or whatever, right? If you're using MariaDB, maybe the corresponding command to take a dump. And I think most of them allow you to take dumps of just specific tables rather than the full thing. And you could just take the dump, extract it in your local, and then basically just run things in your local, right? So if the database is not even that big, I would recommend taking the full database dump and then restoring it in your local machine, and then actually running your script there, right? That is the safest way of doing this. But the second thing is more like an architecture choice, and that is implementing soft deletes, right? So for those guys who don't know what soft delete are, is that your application is designed in such a way that it ignores or it assumes that a particular record is deleted if there is some value in a defined column, right? What I mean by that, so suppose I have a table, right? I have a table which has a bunch of rows, right? And now it can have a bunch of columns, right? There is ID, there is name, there is username, password, and things like that. I would add another column called deleted at, right? And what that deleted at column will do is it will signal my application that if there is a value in deleted at, then treat that record as if it is deleted and doesn't exist in the database. And if deleted at is null, treat it as a record which is not deleted, right? An active record, right? Now, implementing this will change some of the design decisions that you might have made while doing it. So that's why it's not like an easy solution that you would just implement. One of the things that soft delete kind of brings in is that you never delete the data. You could probably archive the data later on if it actually starts piling up, but you never actually get rid of those records, right? So they become like historical records that you can also use for auditing and other purposes. And you might also they might also be needed by your data engineering team to figure out, what were the data trends and things like that, right? Try to get more insights on why are people maybe deleting their accounts or deleting certain stuff, right? So deleting that record from the database might not always be the best choice. Many of the bigger companies, many of the bigger products implement soft deletes so that they still have the data. And if the user really wants to come back and maybe they might have deleted it by mistake, it's very easy for them to just, revert back, right? You just remove the deleted at value, and it's as good as you have undeleted that particular record. So yeah, so I think just to summarize, we talked about what you could do if you are in a situation where you have deleted a bunch of records. So for that, we did take a look at, you could leverage your bin logs, though it is a bit difficult to do that, but definitely not impossible. And there is also one more thing where, if you're using a managed service, enable automated logs, and then you can ask your DevOps guy, or if you are the DevOps guy along with being a developer, you could just restore it. Just remember that the URL is going to change, so you would have to redeploy the application again. The technical solutions to prevent this kind of thing happening again is to do a select before you do a delete. Then you can also create a clone of the table that you are running a script on. And then you can also run your deletions in a transaction rather than raw dogging it, right? And the non-technical things are implementing a soft delete, and then also taking a dump of your table or the database if it is not that big, and then restoring it in your local and then running your script there. That is the safest solution that you could use. Yeah. So yeah, I think this has been a bit of a different kind of video. I'm trying out a bunch of different content ideas. If you like this kind of content, be sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button. Thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you guys in the next one.